Number 11, see yourself as quote-unquote high status. Build a high status self-image. What is status? Well, it's your social standing, where you stand in your social group. And as I've worked with a lot of guys, I found that most of them have what I'll refer to as a low status self-image. They walk into a room and they look around, and what they're trying to figure out is where all the high status others are, because they just kind of at an unconscious level know that most of the other people in the room are going to be higher status than them. And they just kind of want to get in there and not ruffle any feathers or disturb anyone. Again, mostly unconsciously. And then there are a few guys who have a high status self-image. And they walk into new environments. And instead of looking around going, oh, where are the high status guys? I hope they don't notice me and let me just try and fit in. They walk in expecting that they're going to be one of the highest status people in the place. That's just who they are as a person. And it's not high status because they're better than other people or because they want to be domineering or controlling over other people. It's just because it's part of them. It's the way they walk through the world. The healthiest of these are the ones that use their high status to help others. These are mature men who have learned how to deal with their inner and outer conflict. They've learned how to handle their emotions. They've learned how to interact with others. They've learned how to help others work together in teams and get what they want in life. So build a high status self-image and see yourself as a high status person. Number 12, stop apologizing. Before I get into this one, let me say that there are many exceptions to this rule. Okay, this is one of the laws of success, but like any good law, you become the most powerful when you know when to break it. Use it as a rule of thumb. And why do I say stop apologizing? I say it because I think most of the guys that are having challenges with women in dating have a common thread running through them, or running through us. And it is that we feel like we need to apologize for just about everything we do that other people don't like. Sometimes it gets to the point where we feel like we just need to apologize all the time for who we are. We have a self-image, and we're sorry about who we are. We're self-conscious all the time. We know, we walk into a situation almost going, okay, well, there are 10 people here, and each one of them probably has at least 20 or 30 things that they disapprove of, and we just want to walk up to everybody and go, you know what, I'm sorry in advance. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. Another thing is I've seen too many people I care about, including myself, apologize in order to get another person's approval. Even when we don't want to apologize. We do it just so that the other person will like us. We think that it'll make them give us the approval that we want. So stop apologizing. Stop that. And if you stop for long enough and you just make it a rule, I'm just going to not apologize. Over time, you'll build a stronger self-image. You'll start taking more responsibility. You'll build healthier personal boundaries. You'll be able to separate yourself from other people. You'll be able to let other people have their responses and their judgments without it affecting you. And then you'll be able to see and be discerning and know when it's appropriate to apologize. And when you apologize, by the way, it will make people really respect you. When you know when it's appropriate to apologize, That's when people respect you the most. Number 13, stop seeking approval. Stop seeking approval. Approval seeking is a psychological term, and it sounds like what I mean is stop asking people kind of for permission to do things. And that's part of it. But approval seeking is a little bit more than that. It's a little deeper. People that are approval seekers are constantly walking around in the world, doing things so that the social group will accept them. And they're looking around for cues, thinking, uh-oh, am I being accepted by others in the social group or not? And they try to manipulate the situation to get the approval that they want. And they do things like hanging on people, okay, being clingy emotionally or psychologically, wearing out their welcome. Neediness really kills attraction. If you find a woman that you really like, especially if she's attractive, interesting, high status, intelligent, has discerning taste, has a lot of experience with men, if she senses that you're a needy approval seeker, your chances with her are almost zero right from the start. And the irony of it all is that most guys, especially guys that perceive themselves as being low status, that really haven't worked on their self-image, they run up with a giant neon sign, like they're carrying it on their back, that says, "Please give me some approval." So stop seeking the approval of others. You don't need it. In fact, it's worse than you don't need it. It's like a drug. Because the more you get, the more you need. And the more you need to fill this hole in your character, the more you need to make you feel okay. Okay, it's like a death spiral in a plane. It just keeps getting worse and worse. Stop seeking approval. Number 14, stop giving approval in order to get it. This is a form of approval seeking, but it's one that's so prevalent, it's so common, that you almost can't detect it. It's one of those elusive, obvious things. Stop giving approval in order to get it. If you find a woman that you really like, again, let's use this example of a woman that you would find very attractive, very emotionally stable, mature, healthy. Don't go up to her and say, "Wow, you are such a beautiful, wonderful person. I like everything about you. In fact, you're so wonderful that you could pretty much do no wrong. If you walked all over me, I wouldn't even mind that because you're so great." That's a form of giving approval in order to get it. Trying to use the law of reciprocity in a way that is going to only backfire. It's also rather manipulative. I'm going to suggest that if you're not successful with women in dating, you're probably doing a lot of things that are very manipulative, but you just won't admit it. So stop giving approval in order to get it. It isn't working anyway. Make one more comment on that. This is another one of those little areas where guys like to get self-righteous and feel like because they're being so sweet and nice and wonderful to the woman, that if she mistreats them, they can retreat to their own mind and think, "Well, I was so wonderful and sweet to her. You know, she just doesn't deserve a guy like me." And they become what Brad Blanton calls liars committing suicide. "15, stop trading status for approval. I probably should have titled this one, Stop Trying to Trade Status for Approval, because you're not going to meet many women that are going to take this deal. What do I mean by this? Stop trading status for approval. Most men approach women that they're attracted to with a very interesting and unique strategy. One that, if you thought about it logically, you might think, wow, that might really work. And all of us do it unconsciously. And what we do is we show up and we say, oh, amazing woman that all men want. What I would like to do is propose to you that I will make you the important one. I will give you the high status if, in return, you will give me some love and affection and attention and approval. I'll give you whatever you want. I'll give you everything I have. If you'll just love me back. What's funny about this deal that men are offering women, the strategy that they're taking, is that it almost never works. And worse, it's counterproductive. Counterproductive. For every unit of energy that you put into this, you actually lose ground with the woman. This is one of the few things that you can do that will almost guarantee that a woman cannot feel attraction for you. It's like walking up to the coffin of attraction and taking out a railroad spike and a sledgehammer and just hammering it in. Stop trying to trade status for approval. Law number 16. Untangle things like past, present, future, physical, logical, emotional, short, medium, long-term gratification, fear of something and the actual event, and other non-useful combinations. Now, what am I talking about here? Untangle. I'll go through each group. Untangle past, present, and future. Why would you want to untangle the past, present, and the future? Have you ever met someone who lives the same day every day? They go through the same thoughts, they have the same ideas, take the same actions, and it's like, what was that movie, Groundhog Day? Where it's the same day over and over and over? What's going on there? Have you ever met someone who lives in the past? Everything they talk about, everything they do, it's all about the past, a time in their past that doesn't exist anymore. Have you ever met someone that lives in the future? Have you ever met someone that's so afraid of a fictitious future imaginary event that they've created that they structure their whole life around trying to not have that thing happen? And in the process of avoiding something imaginary, they never get anywhere close to what it is that they'd really want. They never even think about what they'd really want. Have you ever met someone that tangles all three of these up and can't distinguish between the three? How about physical, logical, and emotional? You ever tried to argue with someone whose body was filled with emotion? All the chemicals were squirting through their blood system, and they were just amped on some emotion, and you're trying to argue with them? What are you going to accomplish? What's going to happen? What's the outcome going to be when one or both parties in some type of an argument are hyped up, amped up, hepped up on emotion? What's going to happen? whatever the relationship between the two of them is probably going to get worse, erode, and deteriorate. Why? Because the argument is conceptual. You're probably using words and trying to use logic. But if someone is emotional, if they've got the emotions flowing through their body, they can't hear the logic. They don't want to. It's all about ego and who's right and wrong and self-image. So the issues are tangled. Untangle them. Short, medium, and long-term gratification. Here's a good example of this one. Eating. 3 different time frames when we're thinking in terms of gratification. There's the short-term or the instant gratification, the medium-term gratification, and the long-term, and the results. So the instant or the short-term gratification is the pleasure of eating the food. Okay, it's the texture of the feeling of the food in your mouth and the aroma and the feeling as it goes into your stomach. That's the instant gratification, the short. The medium-term gratification is the next 4 to 6 hours, how it affects your state, your mood, your physical energy. And then there's the long-term gratification, okay, from days to the rest of your life. And I would like to suggest to you that if you sat down and spent literally 60 seconds considering the short, medium, and long-term outcome of whatever it is you're about to eat, and you do it at every meal, it'll change your eating patterns. Because the thing that tastes really, really amazingly good, like the Hershey bar or the guacamole Doritos, okay, or the popcorn with all the butter, they taste so amazingly good. But the next 4 to 6 hours, what's your energy going to be like? Right? Insulin spike. You're going to have a carbo crash. You're going to be all weirded out. You're going to be ineffective mentally. And what's the long term going to be like? What if you do that every day for 5 years? Bad news. Overweight, bad skin, bad health, bad digestion, every kind of weird disease known to man. When you start thinking like this, what happens is you sit down before every meal, before you decide even what to eat or where you're going with that. You go, okay, I'm hungry. That's my signal to sit down and go short, medium, long term. What if I eat this thing that has a nice balance of carbohydrate, protein, fat, that's non-chemical laced, okay, that has high quality nutrients in it, that might not taste like the Doritos. I might not enjoy it for the 10 minutes that I'm eating, but you know what? For the next 4 to 6 hours, I'm going to be mentally clear because I ate the right amount of it. I'm going to feel good. I'm going to have a nice balanced energy level. And when I wake up in 5 and 10 years, I'm going to be healthy. If you think that before every meal, what's going to happen? You're going to make different decisions. Here's another one. Fear of something and the actual event. We humans are horrible at predicting how things that are going to happen in the future are going to make us feel, both positive and negative. We way over and underestimate. Even psychologists and people trained to know this still are horrible estimators at how things are going to make us feel. So, and it's the flip side too, fear and desire. We fear an actual event in the future, and we get freaked out about it, and we try to do everything we can to avoid it, and then the event happens, and we go, that wasn't even that big a deal. And yet we wasted all this energy fearing it. Why? Because we confused our fear of the event, or perception of it, and then fear of the perception of it, and the actual thing. So where in your life are you tangling up different levels of things, and you need to just untangle them? Number 17, surround yourself with success models, whether they be in person, in books, on audio, or on video. Best to combine all of them. Surround yourself with success models. Two of my favorite thinkers and authors, Brian Tracy and Napoleon Hill. These are the great fathers and grandfathers of self-help and of personal and business development. Napoleon Hill talks about the mastermind principle, where you get several success-minded individuals together on a regular basis as a group to help each other achieve goals. Brian Tracy talks about the reference group, the group of individuals that you have around you that you become more like whether you want to or not, because their thinking just permeates your mind. If you want to be successful, surround yourself with success models. One of the miracles of modern technology is this ability to buy things that are prepackaged and then put them on some type of a player or download them or pipe them right into our head through headphones and connect with geniuses from across the millennia. So surround yourself with this stuff. It never ceases to amaze me how people waste so much of their lives doing counterproductive things and talking about counterproductive things. And as a habit pattern, sitting down and watching the news for a half hour twice a day, where they're going to get nothing useful, essentially, because they're not watching a focused news program about something that they're interested in that will help them become better or help them develop. They're just watching the events so that they can get the needle in the arm, the little drug dose of fear that can come up for them, and they can call a bunch of people and go, "Oh, did you hear about the hurricane?" Take that half hour twice a day, put on some headphones, and listen to a self-development program. Do that twice a day for a few years, your life will be completely different. Surround yourself with success models in person, books, audio programs, video programs, however you have to do it. Law number 18. Know your purpose or path in life and stay on it. Our modern age of technology and incredible population growth, options, possibility, choice is both a miracle and like a boat anchor tied around our neck, and we're swimming in the middle of the ocean. Why is that? Well, Confucius say, man who chases two rabbits catches none. Well, in our modern world, we have an infinite amount of choices for our lives, for our path, for our purpose. And what most of us are doing is being influenced by a lot of outside influences all the time. And so we're looking at this person, oh, this person thinks I should be doing that. Maybe I should make that my purpose. Or, oh, I'm so confused. And we haven't taken the time to sit down and reflect and block out all of the noise and the distraction and find out what our purpose is in our own life. I believe that you can find your purpose for your life. And once you get in touch with it, you can clarify it and fine-tune it and get to understand it better. And the more you do it in the world and get feedback and have experience with it, the more powerful it will become, the more meaningful, and the more of an effect you'll be able to have on the world and on other people. And the more you'll be able to help other people find their purpose. What if you don't know your purpose? A guy named David Data, he's done a lot of work around this, and he says, go lock yourself in a room with a blank, pad of paper and a pen, and don't do anything until you've figured it out. It might take you hours, it might take you weeks, but just keep working on it until you figure it out, and eventually it'll come to you. For me, my purpose, evolution. That's it, one word, evolution. Continually evolving. looking for the next level, and helping others evolve and find their next level. Evolution. Took me a while to figure that out. You have a different one. I don't know what that is. But find yours. It'll make you 10 times more powerful than using someone else's. Just so happens also that this is one of the single most important, if not the single most important thing you can do to become incredibly attractive to women. If you find your purpose or path in life and then get on it and stay on it and do not allow any woman to distract you or take you off, women will be far more attracted to you. They will line up to get your attention. Number 19. Travel. Single word, travel. If you're not regularly getting outside of your little bubble that you live in and going to other cities, other states, other countries, other continents, you are limiting yourself incredibly. Now, why would I say travel? Because if you don't travel, and you just stay in your little bubble with your influences, there's not going to be much development. You're going to have a limited access to new paradigms. The further that you travel, the more you put yourself out there in situations that are, just way outside of what you maybe used to do, the more it will expand your mind. It'll expand the possibilities. When you go to other places and you see people living differently, it will have an effect on your mind and on your thinking and how you see yourself and your life. But you need to keep doing it, because if you only travel once and then you come home and you go, wow, it sure is interesting how them Italians live over there. We paddle around in them boats like we got streets, and they're pretty funny. And then that's your story for the rest of your life, is the time you went to Italy. It's not exactly what I'm talking about. What happens is when you go over there and you see that and you come back and you go, wow, that's really, that's real cool how they paddle around them boats. And then a few months later, you go to another part of the world. You see something different, or another part of the country, and you come back and you go, wow, now I see that very differently. They do it this way, these guys do it this way, and they're both different from me. Maybe I can borrow a little from these guys and a little bit from these guys. I think that traveling is one of the greatest modern inventions, is low-cost, efficient travel. I think that if everyone in the world could travel, twice a year to another country and sit down with a couple of families in that other country and enjoy a couple of meals, that the amount of violence and the amount of conflict that's going on all over the world would just plummet. I think we'd start accepting each other so much more. Because I haven't traveled anywhere near as much as I'd like. Last year was the first time I actually got off the continent in my whole life. But I went to places, and some of the places I thought, I'm an American. I might not be accepted there as well because they kind of don't like us. What I found is that people, essentially all over the world for the most part, are very accepting of other people. And that the pictures that were given of those other groups of people by people that would like us to see them in a certain way are the reason why we view them that way. And that we're often very manipulated. And that not only are we getting the wrong idea about them, but we're not getting the chance to expand our own minds. And then to, quote unquote, land the plane, I'll end with this. The more you travel, the more you expand your mind, the more interesting of a person you become, the more stories you have to tell, the more fascinating you are, and the more attractive you are. The more women will want to be around you just to sit and listen to you talk about how things are different in other parts of the world and how you've learned so much from other people. Many benefits to travel. Do it. All right. Now let's talk about some principles, some rules of thumb. Even though I call this the 77 laws of success with women in dating, the reality is that all of these are really guidelines. Okay? The last group was at the conceptual level, at the paradigm level. This is at the principle level, the bridge between thought and action, concept and execution. Number 20, every day, find your center, become centered, and then make yourself the center. Now, this is a big concept and something that I taught in my mastery program. Find your center. Get in touch with your ideal self-image, your path, your purpose in life. Become centered. Close your eyes for a few minutes. Breathe in. Get a sense of your body. Get in touch with all the systems you have inside of yourself working together to keep you alive. Maybe even do some basic meditation techniques of just noticing your breath, taking conscious control of it for a little while, and breathing in and out and noticing it. And then make yourself the center. Meaning, notice that the world around you is your reality. And make your model of reality very powerful in your mind. Communicate that reality. Become the center of your own reality. Not in a weird, psycho-domineering way, but in a powerful, masculine leadership role kind of way. Law 21. Focus on the core skills and your inner game, and the techniques will take care of themselves. Focus on the core skills and the inner game, and the techniques will take care of themselves. Because we are so instant gratification minded as humans, I think we like to go under the assumption or under the hope that if we get out there and we learn a bunch of techniques, we'll kind of pick up the principles and we'll pick up the theory along the way. And that's true. It's just a lot more painful and it takes a lot longer and it's much more of a waste of time that way. Instead, maybe consider trying the opposite. Work on your inner game and learning the principles and the theory, and you'll pick up the techniques along the way. If you learn from someone that just knows tricks, sure, you might be dazzled a lot, and it might be kind of fun, but when you get into real-world situations, you're not going to know when to use them, you're not going to know which is the right technique to use in the right situation, and it will be much harder to figure out the concept or the theory or the higher conceptual levels. If you hang out with more evolved masters and you say, teach me the principles, it'll take a little bit longer initially to get it, to start to understand the principles. But as you're learning them, every once in a while a technique will be used as an example. And you'll see how the technique fits. And you will master the area much more quickly. So focus on the core skills in your inner game, and the techniques will take care of themselves. Number 22, accept and embrace what I call transition anxiety or transition vulnerability as an opportunity to see things from a beginner's perspective automatically. Transition anxiety or transition vulnerability occurs whenever you're taking on something new and you need to become a beginner. A lot of people won't do new things because they don't want to screw them up. They're afraid of looking like a dumbass. They're afraid of looking incompetent. And through their fear of being a beginner again, their fear of looking incompetent, their fear of looking like they don't know what they're doing, they trap themselves in whatever their current model and set of skills are. When you take the leap to go try something and put yourself out there and fall down and look dumb and whatever, it doesn't matter, you'll go through something that I call transition anxiety or transition vulnerability. It's like when the larva crawls into the cocoon and spins the cocoon, and it's in there transforming, and it's doing its work. Well, it's very vulnerable at that time, because if a predator comes along and wants to eat it, it's not going anywhere. And when it first crawls out, at the very beginning of its transformation, of its new life, in that little moment of transition, that's when it's really the most vulnerable. It doesn't have that cocoon to protect it. It hasn't mastered the new skills of, if it's a butterfly, of flight, of living in its new world. It's a great time for a predator to show up and just pick it off. So that's the metaphor. And when you're going through that transition point where you're starting something new, okay, it's going to get at your self-image. It's going to get at this part of you that's the most tender, where you'll feel the most anxiety and vulnerability. If you can accept that and say, you know what? It's all right. Let's just go through it. And you say, I'm going to be able to see things through new eyes. I'm going to be able to get back to that innocent beginner's perspective, and that's going to bring a tremendous amount of benefit to the rest of my life. I think you'll do much better. Much better. Anytime you can get the opportunity to see things anew with a creative mind, with the mind of the beginner, you benefit. You evolve. So embrace that transition anxiety or transition vulnerability, and know that when it comes up, that it's just part of the evolution process. It's natural. It's good for you. It's a sign that things are on track. You're developing. Number 23, learn to enjoy the process of learning more than the actual result of the learning. Learn to love learning. Learn to love it. I really think it's a tragedy that school is so boring. It's such a tragedy. And on the one hand, I admire anyone in our world that goes through life and becomes a teacher, because we mistreat them. We really mistreat them. Instead of holding them up as the highest status people and choosing the best and making it the most important thing that there is, we kind of just think, oh, teacher, and we pay them little, and we give them little to work with, and we demand much from them. So on the one hand, I revere them. Anyone that I meet that's a teacher, I give them the benefit of the doubt, and I want to help them in any way I can. I really do. And on the other hand, I think, what did they do to attract so many ridiculous people that should be doing something other than teaching? Because a lot of the teachers that I meet, it just really is not their calling. They go, oh, those kids, they annoy me so much, or, whatever. They don't like what they're doing. Okay, so that's a little bit of one of my inner conflicts that I have to deal with. Wouldn't it be amazing if we lived in a world where you had to go through a process of becoming the kind of person that kids love to learn from, and there was a methodology to teach our teachers how to teach in a way that was not boring, to teach in a way that was exciting, to teach in a way that made all kids have open minds and love learning, and just be, by the time they got out of school, they were so addicted to learning that they got out and they went, oh, I'm finally out of school so I can learn at double the speed. Wouldn't that be amazing? So most of us were conditioned, it was like we went into school and they flipped us upside down and said, okay, read this book while I beat your feet with a cane. And we have so much pain associated to the learning process that when we're done, we're like, I am free. I am never going to learn anything again for as long as I live. So I hate that stuff. You might have to go through a process of learning to love learning. But learn to enjoy the process of getting lessons and having ahas, and having epiphanies, and connecting things more than you love the outcome of the learning of what you're trying to do. Number 24, teach others every great thing you learn immediately. If you learn something great, the first order of business is to go teach it to as many people as you can. I can't explain why this formula works, even though I've tried to figure it out for a long time. But there's something about teaching that makes you learn it much, much, much better. If you have a teacher sit down and teach you something, and they teach you it 3 times in a row, like once a day, and then you leave, as opposed to having someone teach you something, and then the next 2 days you go teach it to 2 other people, you'll learn it much better, in most cases, if you're the one doing the teaching. There's something about having that responsibility of teaching the other person, of helping them get somewhere, that almost triggers a certain, like maybe an accountability switch inside of us where we care more. Teach others every great thing you learn immediately. So make a habit out of that. As soon as you learn something new, teach them. One of my 2 best friends is here, Richard, and over the years, if you pull him aside, he'll tell you that his phone rings all the time. Because when I learn something great, I whip my phone out and just start dialing anybody that's around that I think will be on the other end. And I go, listen to this. Boom. I just got to teach it. And when I teach things quickly, and I just keep teaching them over and over, what I find is that they get driven down in my unconscious mind. It's like they're in there somewhere. I got the recording. And then when I need it in the future, when I'm working on something, it comes up for me. 25. Never whine, bitch, or complain, ever. Dale Carnegie, who wrote the number 1 selling self-help book of all time, the number 2 book of all time, only number 2 after the Bible, How to Win Friends and Influence People. He said, never criticize, condemn, or complain. Never criticize, condemn, or complain. Made a little modern interpretation. Never whine, bitch, or complain. I kind of like to criticize people. I get a certain sarcastic sense of pleasure from it, so I'll keep doing a little of that. If you find yourself whining about something or bitching, complaining, that's about your perception of the situation, not about the situation itself. It's about you, not what's going on outside of you. So if you use this as a principle, what you'll find is that when you whine about something, you get into it, and you show up with someone you know, and you go, oh, God, let me tell you about this thing that happened. And you're blah, blah, blah. And halfway through it, you go, what am I doing? This is not getting me anywhere. And you stop, and you get yourself back on track, and you go on. This is a little signpost along the highway of life. What I'm not saying is if you catch yourself whining or bitching, beat yourself up about it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when you see the sign go by, as you're whining and bitching, it's like, don't whine or bitch, and you go, oh yeah, stop. Let's stop that. Get on a little different path. 26. Objectify your demons so you control them instead of them controlling you. Objectify your demons. Now, what do I mean by objectify your demons? This is a concept I got from Ken Wilber. Okay, this guy is like a giant human brain on a little stick If you see pictures of him, he's got this gigantic cranium. And when I heard him say this, I said, that's it right there. Okay, so let's define demon real quick before we talk about what to do with it. What's a demon? I'm not talking about the kind that you see in movies or that you read about in the Bible. Although, in a way, I am. A demon is something that comes up for you, that kind of takes over, and you feel like you're losing control. One of your demons might be, for instance, if you find yourself around strong, competitive men who are confronting you, an emotional issue comes up called, I would like to destroy him. Anyone ever had that feeling? Yeah, right? You might think of that as a demon. Something that's really part of you, natural. It's in there. It's a potential that gets activated by something. But when it comes up, it takes over. You lose control in one way or another. It's like they kicks you over into the passenger seat and takes control of the car, so you get to sit there looking out the window while it's driving. Your inner demons. Okay, so now that we know what the demon is, what does it mean to objectify it? Objectifying it means to witness it, be able to watch it happen, and then dissociate from it and go, oh, look at that. That's part of me. You might even do a little research on it or read up about it and learn about that thing so that when it happens, you can say, oh, I know what this is all about. This is that thing that happens to people. And that one's just coming up for me because it's just coming up. And once you've objectified your demons, what happens as they start popping up? Now you control them instead of them controlling you. You've dissociated. Number 27. Become selfish so you can become generous. This concept I originally got from an amazing guy named Thomas Leonard, who's no longer alive, kind of the founder of the personal coaching movement. In his book, The Portable Coach, he says, become very selfish right at the beginning. And I'm not talking about the kind of selfish where you're egocentric and ultra-narcissistic and where you don't do anything for anyone else. I'm talking about the kind of selfish where you make yourself important first. You make yourself a priority in your life in order to become very generous so you can give the most to others. I don't know how my life's going to play out or what my perspective is going to be on the future, but I would argue right now that because I've been very selfish and I've spent many years just filling my mind with all of this wisdom from other people that have gone before me that are much greater thinkers than me, that I am at my most generous now, that I can give the most back. And I also submit to you that you can do both, that they're not mutually exclusive. Most people think in terms of, well, I can be either selfish or I can be generous. You ever met a person that was super generous and will just never be selfish at all, no matter what you tell them, and they can't even hear? You know what you need to do is you need to go spend some time working on yourself so that you can become much more. No. I have to put others first. In fact, would you like to drive over my back? Walk on me a little bit. There's a puddle. I'll lay on it for you. And you're like, no. Come on. Go do some work on yourself, because if you're strong. No, I could never put myself before others. And have you ever met a person that's so focused on themselves, so, again, egocentric, narcissistic, that they can't see outside of them, they can't see the effects that they're having on the world, and they're not genuinely generous? The extremes, I think they lead to negative results. On the other hand, I think if you embody both, that both of them can be much more powerful as a result. Become selfish so you can become generous. Number 28. Surround yourself with success models while eliminating failure models. This is one of the tougher ones. This is one of the sounds easy but isn't category. And the reason I made this separate was, here I'm going to suggest to you that a lot of the influences in your life are pulling you down. They're holding you back, and you don't even know it. If you know one person in your life that is failure-minded, that's highly pessimistic, that can never see themselves going anywhere, and that in fact thinks that successful people are victimizing them just by becoming successful, one of those folks, and you keep them in your life, that thinking will go into your head whether you want it to or not, and you will think some amount of those thoughts whether you want to or not. It's just going to happen. Now, I also do live in the real world with you, and I realize that if, your entire family is like that, you're probably not going to call them all up one day and go, well, I've decided you're a failure model, and I'm just not going to be able to talk to you anymore. It's been great. Take it easy. I understand. But what you're going to want to do is consciously spend less time with those negative models. And a little trick that I like to do is get them at their best. Get them at their best. If you got to keep that person or that influence in your life, figure out when it's on positive mode and not when it's on negative mode, and hang out with them then. Maybe it's a person who is negative most of the time, but when they get into a situation where they're watching a sports game, that's it, man. They're on, and they're a joy to be with. Take that person to the game once in a while and spend your time with them there. Or maybe they're an artist, and they're a super melancholy, depressive person, and that's just their whole deal, and they don't want to hear it. But for them, when they're at an art museum, they come alive. They're inspired by the masters. Take them to the art museum. Maybe it's your 900-pound aunt who loves to go to the smorgasbord restaurant. Take her out to eat. Surround yourself with success models. Eliminate the failure models. Very important to start weeding those out. 29. Keep doing what works and stop doing what doesn't work. I love being human and realizing that I just keep beating my head against the wall. And when something doesn't work, I just keep doing it. And I keep doing it. And I keep doing it. And one day I go, hey, wait, stop for a sec. Let me write down the last 10 times I tried this and it didn't work. Why the hell am I doing this? What am I doing here? Stop that. And then I think back and I go, do I know how to solve this problem? Have I ever... back several years ago, I tried this one technique and it worked. And as soon as it worked, I immediately abandoned it. My good friend Rick, who you may have heard me talk about or seen in one of my programs, he and I joke about this a lot. I've learned a lot from him about how to become successful with women. And one day I sat down with him and I said, you know what, let me just ask you some questions. Let me just kind of interview you about a few things. And I said, how did you learn this? And how did you learn that? And what did what was your first big aha when it came to this, part of success with women and dating? And he started remembering all these amazing gems of knowledge. And every few minutes he'd go, why the hell did I stop doing that? That worked so well. And we laughed about it, and we came up with a little joke between us. It's like, when one of us will figure out something that works, the joke is, well, we have to abandon that immediately, because that's just too easy. And we'll go out together and we'll do something, and one of us will start talking to a girl, and we'll try something totally unproven, and it'll screw the whole situation up. And the other one of us will go, "Dumbass, what are you doing? You know better than that." And we go, "Well, duh. They can't do something that works." You see me running around with a journal all the time in my hands? I always got one of these, and I'm taking notes. You see me in the back with the guest speakers up, and I'm speaking and taking notes. Every once in a while, I even stop the program, and I got to go write something down because I realized something or something someone said. Keep track of the things you learn that work. When you figure something out, when you learn a strategy, when you go, "Oh, that works," write it down. Write down the aha. Do more of what works. When things don't work consistently, stop doing them. It didn't work. Number 30, maintain your composure. Maintain your composure. I've met a lot of people in my day. A lot of people now. I've only known a few who are what I consider to be highly successful people. Successful emotionally, financially, interpersonally, the whole thing. Like just whole, complete people. The kind of people that when I talk to them, I go, I aspire someday to really have my act together like you. You're such a great model for me. And one of the things that they have in common is their ability to maintain their composure. Now, a lot of the things we've talked about lead to the ability to maintain composure. Okay, so when you use these together. But anytime you lose it, anytime you crack, anytime you stumble, an emotion becomes more powerful than your ability to control it, and you lose your composure, that's a sign that you got some more inner work to do. If you can maintain your composure at all times, and as Rudy Giuliani says, when everyone else is freaking out, you're becoming calmer and more focused and more centered, that's when you'll start making much progress. Law 31. Prove to yourself over and over that you can deal with, quote unquote, rejection. Prove to yourself that you can deal with rejection. And I'm not just saying get rejected. And I'm not saying live through rejection. I'm saying prove to yourself over and over that you can deal with it. And how do you prove to yourself that you can deal with rejection? How would you do that? Just think for a sec. Well, if it happens, you first need to go, "Oh, look at that. Someone rejected me. They don't like me. They didn't like what I said, whatever. They don't want to be around me." And then say, "How am I doing? I think I'm going to be okay." And then take it to the next step and have the realization that their rejecting you does not have to go on and affect your life in any way. By going through the whole cycle, you can prove it. Okay, you can experience it, build a little case or an argument in your mind, and then prove it by going on and observe that whole thing. Okay, so prove it to yourself over and over again.